So if you're pretty new to jazz improvisation, or maybe you just want to work up your skills, this video is for you. Hi, I'm Donna Schwartz from DonnaSchwartzMusic.com, the site for practical tips and solutions to improve your music performance skills. I had a great question from one of my subscribers a few weeks ago. The question was, what's the best order to follow for the Jamey Aebersold Playalong series? Now, you may think, oh, I'll just start with volume 1. Why are they asking that question? It actually is a really good question because in some situations you would not want to start with volume 1. Well, let me backtrack a little bit. What am I talking about when it comes to the Jamey Aebersold Playalong series? The Jamey Aebersold Playalongs are basically background tracks with sometimes there's songs in there, some jazz standards, sometimes there's scales, sometimes there's exercises, sometimes there's chord progressions. And these backing tracks or these books, these volumes have been around for quite a while. In fact, I don't even know what number they're up to in terms of the volumes. It's probably like 170 something or close to 200. There's all styles of music. There's jazz, there's Latin, bossa novas, some rock things, some particular musicians, composers, that kind of thing. How to learn tunes, all that kind of stuff. So this is a great resource for any musician to have, not just jazz musicians. Now, what did I mean before about don't start with volume 1? Well, here's the thing. If you don't have enough experience with music theory, or if you don't know your major scales and your minor scales, you would not want to start with volume 1. In fact, what you would want to start with is volume 24, major and minor. This is a great volume to start with once you learn at least one major scale. And when I mean learn, I mean you really should be able to play it on sight, but what's really great is if you have it memorized. In fact, this book, this series right here, volume 24, will help you to memorize your major scales. And it will also help you to memorize one type of minor scale. The one thing about this book, which is really good, actually, there's two CDs, okay? One's for major, one's for minor, in every key, all the keys. The major scales, they have different tracks for each key, and it's a little bit of a different groove. It's not too fast, which is great for beginners. It's also great for people to brush up on their fundamentals with. And there's not a whole bunch of chord changes. Okay, in fact, with each track you can get away with just playing your one scale and listening to how each note of the scale fits in with the chord changes that are there. The second CD is all minor. The only issue is that it's not following the 3 forms of minor, which is natural, harmonic, and melodic. It actually follows the Dorian minor. Why does Jamey Aebersold do that? Because in jazz, most often we use that Dorian scale quite a bit. So this is a great way to start learning your major scales and your Dorian minor scales. And I use this to start off a majority of my students. Now, if you do have some music theory background and knowledge, you could start with volume 1, how to play jazz. Now, when you first look at a lot of the Jamey Aebersold books, you'll notice that there's a lot of verbiage, a lot of writing in the beginning. And what I know from my students, they always say to me, I don't read that stuff in the beginning. I just put the track on and I try to play along. I'm going to mention this to you, and this is a good tip, and this is something you should follow. Look, Jamey Aebersold knows this stuff, all right? There's a lot of verbiage in the beginning. You really should go through it and read it. Should you read it in one sitting? Probably not, okay? I would take a little bit in at a time. But there's so much information here that's going to help you become a really great improviser. It doesn't matter what genre, okay? There's just a ton of information. And he talks about such things as developing creativity, beginning to improvise for the first time, all types of things. The bebop scales, ear training, all that kind of stuff. Chromaticism. It's really well worth reading. Volume 1 is good in the sense that he also has exercises in here to practice along with the tracks. And a lot of the tracks, it's one chord for an extended period of time. So you get used to playing around the arpeggios and the scale choices in that chord. And then it branches off into random minor chords. There's a lot of minor chords in here. And then we get to some 2-5-1s. And this kind of introduces you to that very important chord sequence in jazz. He also introduces you to the blues. Back when I was teaching in New York, we would use some of the tracks from here to evaluate students on their knowledge of improvisation. And we'd usually use blues in concert B flat or concert F. And that's what's in this book. There's also other types of things here as well. It's a good start. However, it can be overwhelming for a beginner. And if you don't know how to use this, it makes it even more overwhelming for you. But again, it is a wonderful resource. So I would recommend volume 24, then volume 1. The next book that I would recommend would actually jump around more, get into some songs. We do volume 54. This is a great little volume over here. It's got some really well-known songs like Cantaloupe Island, Footprints, Maiden Voyage, some blues. Satin Doll is in here. Watermelon Man, Song for My Father, Summertime, okay, Impressions. Some really good stuff in here. Great volume. And the thing, if I remember correctly, this is an older version of this. What the Aebersold series started to do, they used to have one CD, and sometimes people felt the tempos were too fast. With some of the volumes, there's a slow version CD and a fast version CD. So that's really cool. But you know what? There's a lot of resources out there that help you to slow down the tempo without changing the key so that you could work on playing the tracks in whether it's this or some other songs that you like. So my next thing would be volume 54. It's called Maiden Voyage, okay? After that, I would recommend volume 2, going back to the beginning, Nothing But the Blues. Now this is a good volume because it's jazz and it's rock. See, when you're first learning blues, I feel it's important to learn the changes for the rock blues because there's only three chords in that. It's a little easier to digest. Then you want to get into jazz blues where there's more chord changes in there. And this book does that, but I'm going to say though that there's some tracks in here where we get into minor blues, and that may be a little confusing for a beginner. I feel it's more important that you stick with blues and major keys and really learn them in a whole bunch of major keys. First learn them rock blues, and then learn them jazz blues, and then get into the minor blues. Okay, so that's my own personal take on that. But this would be my next choice after volume 54. And my last choice for a beginner, and I'm just going to keep this video for beginners, is volume 3, 2-5-1s. Okay, that's the chord progression that you've got to know if you want to know jazz. And this is a really good book. But again, you would want software that would slow down the tracks because some of these go pretty fast. And it goes through all the keys. There's a lot of great suggestions, exercises for patterns in all the keys. And it's not just your major 2-5-1s. It's also, you got some altered chords here, minors, all that kind of stuff. There's some bridges as well. This is a really good book, okay? And that would summarize the first, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 books that I would recommend for beginners or for intermediate players who are just diving into jazz, trying to build their fundamentals and looking for good backing tracks, good method books to help them in their journey. So I hope I answered that question well enough for you. And if you'd like more information on jazz, well, I've got a free video that will help boost your improvisation, help you avoid the common mistakes that most improvisers make, and give you some tips to make your solos more exciting, engaging, and flow better. And you get that at my website, donnaschwartzmusic.com. So sign up today, you get the free video, and you get the free weekly newsletter with practical tips and solutions to improve your music performance skills. Thanks so much for joining me. Please subscribe to my channel, give me a like, share this. I'd really appreciate it. And on that note, take care. Have a great day.